Hello and welcome. I'm Sylvia Hartman, the creator of Modern Energy. And it is a lovely rainy day in beautiful Eastbourne today. And I'm reading the news and I came across this article called These Teens Got Therapy, Then They Got Worse. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I think I will make a little video about this and record my reactions to this. And yes, let's read this lovely article together, shall we? Let us begin here. And this is sort of a person doing kind of a personal spin on this. It's not a scientific article, it's a comment on something. So, researchers in Australia assigned more than 1,000 young teenagers to some classes, either a typical middle school health class or one that taught a version of a mental health treatment called dialectic behavior therapy, or DBT. And I love this. The therapy was based on strong science. Oh my. DTB incorporates classic techniques from therapy, such as cognitive reappraisal, reframing, and mindfulness. Ugh. Both techniques have proven to alleviate psychological struggles. And I'm sorry, I really wanted to say my arse here. My arse have they been proven to alleviate psychological struggles? Absolutely not. There is not a single person who's ever been cured of their psychological struggles through cognitive behavior therapy or mindfulness. But anyway, so people were instructed various things like pay attention to a sunset, blah, 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 blah. And it didn't work. What happened was not what Harvey and her co-authors predicted. The therapy seemed to make the kids worse. Ugh. Immediately after the intervention, the therapy group had worse relationships with their parents and increases in depression and anxiety. They were also less emotionally regulated and had less awareness of their emotions. And they reported a lower quality of life. My God, honestly. I mean, seriously, any other field of human endeavor that fails so relentlessly, so absolutely, and fails to solve whatever problem it was supposed to solve so relentlessly as psychology does, would have been laughed out of town a long time ago. And I do not understand why this emperor without any clothes is still allowed to run riot in our societies. I do not understand it, but here we go. Let's continue. Most of these negative effects dissipated after a few months, but 6 months later, the therapy group was still reporting poorer relationship with their parents. Oh, man. Why is that the case? Because these children are being taught a lens through which to filter the interactions that they're having from a victim's perspective. So, an offhand remark by a stressed mother becomes gaslighting, becomes evidence of narcissism and abuse, and it is just an absolute nightmare. This victim culture that we're dealing with was generated by psychology and the focus on everything through this destructive lens of trauma and trauma and trauma. Soften and flow, Sylvia. These results are well depressing, says the author of this article. Therapy is supposed to relieve depression, not exacerbate it. And in brackets here, she put something which just makes me laugh. Although it is disappointing that the therapy program didn't work, it's commendable that Harvey and her colleagues analyzed it objectively and published the negative results. That is so commendable of scientists to publish negative results. Wow. Yeah. Give her a medal. people who study teen mental health treatments, these findings are part of a familiar pattern. Yeah, right. Last year, a study of thousands of British kids who were put through mindfulness programs found in the end they had the same depression as everybody else. Yes, well, there's some other sort of crazes that people have used to take money from public institutions over the years, which was there in the 90s, and mindfulness now. And we also have here the self-esteem boosting craze of the 80s. A self-esteem boosting craze? Low self-esteem is one of the biggest problems that everybody has, all human beings have, in my opinion. Later research questioned whether having high self-esteem is even beneficial. Oh my God. Yeah, so we have completely failed to raise people's self-esteem. And so we're just questioning if it was even beneficial. That's sour grapes if I've ever seen it. Anti-bullying programs for high schoolers seem to increase bullying. I love it. Oh, seriously. The consistent failure of these kinds of programs is troubling because teen mental health is now considered a crisis. Yes, it is. We do not have to read the statistics here. We are quite clear on that the children of today are in crisis. The kids are not all right, and frustratingly, we don't really know how to help them. Yes, well, there was one really quite wonderful thing here that I highlighted. Let's have a look at that. And this is really hilarious. Maybe everybody thinking about how anxious or hurt they are might not be the best idea, says Jean M. Twenge, a professor of psychology at San Diego State University. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Maybe everybody thinking about how anxious or hurt they are might not be the best idea. Welcome to the party of sanity. Well, I've got this awesome book called Star Matrix. Have a read of that. That might help somewhere along the line. But let me just say this. Thinking about how anxious or hurt you are all the time, or in intensive therapy sessions, or as a rule of thumb, how to evaluate your reality and your place within it, is the very worst thing you can possibly do to become a happy, healthy, successful person, regardless of how you define that. It is destructive as hell. And when people are already severely stressed, and the poor kids of today, I just feel so sorry for them. My teenage years were bad enough, but I just can't imagine social media on top of that. And, the planet's dying, and oh my God, and all this other nonsense, that the stress-induced nonsense that is being spouted out left, right, and center without any regard of how many people are hurt by this and how bad this is for society, for families, for children, for, oh man, for everyone. So there's a lot of more excuses as to why it didn't work. In the English one that was referenced here earlier, why it didn't work was because they only had 10 lessons instead of a year-long intensive one-on-one therapy in looking at why they're hurt and their pain and trauma and delving into that some more. Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? So, yeah, that's it. That's where it ends. And here's the thing. The upshot of all these failed experiments is the old chestnut: you can't change people who aren't ready to change. Now, that's the final frontier excuse when methods don't work. It's not the method. It isn't the It's not the method, it's not the technique, it's not the theory that sits behind the method and technique. They're all perfect, they're fine. It's because people don't want to change, and that's why it doesn't work. Oh my, don't we have so much power to take these wonderful techniques or to just say, I don't want to change, and so I don't. Wow, such power attributed to the depressed and anxious and distraught clients. It's their fault because they don't want to change. No, 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 no. It's not their fault. It's because the methods suck, the techniques suck, and they suck because the entire theory of psychology is wrong. Now, I'm actually coming out of the closet and saying that today. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, fails so completely because it isn't a cognitive problem when you feel like shit, when you feel anxious, when you feel depressed, when you feel scared, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel angry, disappointed, depressed, ashamed, whatever the hell you feel. That is not a cognitive problem. And therefore, you cannot solve it through thinking your way out of it. You can't think your way out of this stuff. You have to do something else. You have to deal with this whole thing completely differently. And so let me just get rid of that off the screen here, because this is, it's just a crazy thing, really, if you think about it. It's a crazy thing if you think about it. Psychology is a complete and utter failure. A failure as a science, as an anything, as an anything at all. It's a failure. That's because its base theories are wrong. And everything that's built upon that is basically a house of sand. And if you want to feel better, really, you need to do something else. You need to, above all else, try as hard as you can to stop seeing every interaction and everything through this lens that somebody's trying to be out there to get you, that you are the eternal victim of everything that's around you, that your mummy never loved you and daddy never loved you, and that's the reason why your life's not working and it's all their fault. And I know it sounds good, and I know you can do this over and over and over for 30 years in therapy, 3 times a week, in all its variations of all the other people who've disrespected you, never loved you, and all the rest of it. But you're not going to get to be happier or healthier at the end of that. It doesn't work. It does not only not work, because if it just didn't not work, that'll be all right, you know, like so many other things don't really work long term, but you're spending some time, you're having a bit of fun. It's a bit of entertainment, if you will. I'll be fine, you know, if it didn't work. But it doesn't not only not work, it is extremely destructive in the long run. Extremely destructive in the long run to have these definitive traumas that define your entire life. And this is who I am. I could have been a contender if my mother had treated me a little bit better. It's just the wrong way to deal with this whole thing. It really is. So let me try and be a little upbeat and positive here. I would say that the greatest problem that we're having here is a lack of love. A lack of love for each other, a lack of love for just a lack of love. We need far more loving approaches to everything. And on the bright side, everybody loves something. Now, if we were to say to the teenagers or preteens, tweens, okay, guys, just put your hands in the heart position and start thinking about something that you love. What do you love? Do you love some kind of music? Do you love some kind of computer game? Do you love a movie or a TV show? Do you love your pet? Do you have one? Do you love a toy that you have? Do you love, what do you love? Really, really love. And now just think about that for a moment and think about why you love that, how that makes you feel, why it's good, you know? And I can see smiles starting to spread around the room as we are actually starting to do something, spin our energy system forward towards something that we love. Now, people are starting to relax and starting to feel happier. That is the exact opposite of putting people in a group and telling them to focus on something that hurts, or that scares them, or that frightens them, or that pains them, or that's wrong about them. It's the exact opposite. To think about something that you love as a beginning of a different way of thinking about the world is in and of itself energy raising, positive, good for mental health, good for emotional well-being. People know this. That's why they wear t-shirts with things on that excite them and that they love. That's why, oh man. That's why teenagers at school have a pencil case with a specific design on it. To look down at it in the desert that is education and schools, and get something positive, a little spark of reminder that there are times when they feel good, that there are times when they are so much closer to their true self. And the closer you get to your true self, the more self-esteem you have as a direct cause and effect. I could talk about this for hours, but I am glad that something as mainstream as The Atlantic allowed this article to be published. And I'd like to bring this out into public discord. The fact that psychology has failed as a field, as a science, entirely in its most basic presuppositions. And they can go around and do their studies about this, that, and the other, these minute little crazy studies that all this money is being spent on. And some of them have turned out to be completely falsified by now. I'm thinking about some study about if you leave some garbage in a railway station, do people feel more racist because of it? I mean, what kind of study is that? How does that help a depressed teenager? I really would like to know how does that kind of thing develop the field of psychology? How does that do anything to make it so that human beings work better individually, together, with each other, and most importantly, inside their families? And that is, for me, the greatest flaw, fault, mistake of these studies is that it makes the relationship, the already difficult relationship between the stressed parents and the stressed teenagers, worse. That's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. In fact, it's a hallmark of a cult. That's what a cult tries to do. Get the children away from the parents. Get, brothers and sisters away from each other. Isolate the individual so that the cult is the only thing that they can turn to. Just saying. So, yeah, I'm glad that this is out in the mainstream. If you're completely new to this, you don't know what's going on here, please go and download my, at this moment, still free book, Revolution. There's a link beneath the video, and have a look if that makes sense to you. We have had many successful programs in schools to help people with some people. I'm saying people, the children there, and the teachers, and the support workers, and the headmaster, and the managers, and the office staff. Everybody's a human being. Everybody starts feeling better when we start simply putting our hands on our heart and taking a deep breath in and out. and just for a moment focusing on something that makes us happy and something that we love. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what I do here, please share with other people. Please like and subscribe. Help me grow the channel a little bit more. There's many more people who have to hear what we have to say. We've worked on this for a long time. We, have our own results. And in the meantime, try and focus away from wrongdoing, from evil and misery, and try and think about things that you find uplifting. That's the best way forward for your mental health, your emotional health, but also for your success in relationships, in business, anywhere else in the world, in the long run. So lots of love to you. And I will say bye for now.